Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime, here with my next Boruto Anime review. This one's going to be for episode 11, which is called The Shadow of the Mastermind. Solid enough episode. I don't think it was anything particularly amazing, but definitely a lot of still intriguing things about this kind of current arc of the investigation properly beginning surrounding the ghost, in terms of getting some real progress here with some of the reveals towards the end, but it's still, I think, very much feeling like a lot of this stuff it feels so new and out there that we just don't really know about, that it's hard to make the connections between, okay, is Mitsuki involved, the Foundation's involved, Hashirama cells are involved, this animal thing, lion looking thing that could be some sort of a summoning beast type thing, maybe some relation to a Reaper Death Seal type thing going on, and it just is okay, there's a lot of interesting elements to it. It's just the main core of the episode was continuing the whole, we'll monitor the different routes by using our job as mailmen to get that across, and that kind of failing initially, then everyone jumping on board to help out, and the action scene with the kind of manager of the post office. It was fine, okay, he's the one who gets possessed this time, but nothing to really stand out, I think, about the episode. I think the best scene in the whole episode was the Naruto, Boruto, and Shino scene, of just Naruto basically just saying, Boruto, stay out of this. This is pretty big. Look at what's actually happening here. People are getting their chakra almost completely drained out of them. This is extremely dangerous. You do not know the full extent of kind of combat, I suppose, basically, is what Naruto is getting at. And I like how he added in just this idea of leave this to the grown-ups, finish the academy first. I like that he pointed that out, because he's not just saying leave it to the grown-ups, it's just only for adults to do, because Naruto was doing stuff basically as soon as he graduated from the academy as well. As soon as he got his headband, he was out doing stuff. And he's just pointing that out to Boruto, of just I will be actually fine with you doing stuff like this to a degree once, you earn that headband. And I kind of like that Naruto's being kind of firm, but sort of fair about it, in that he's not just saying, because you are still a child, you cannot do these missions, which perhaps sort of came across as his opinion on things in, I think, was it last week's episode, where him and Hinata were talking, and he was like, I wish he could just, remain a kid for longer and not have to grow up and do these important things so quickly. That gave that impression, but I think even in that episode they did note that that's not the way things are at this stage, and here he is giving him the idea of just, earn your headband, then you can do things. Which is exactly the way it worked for Naruto. The only thing he did prior to getting his headband was the very first episode of Naruto, but I suppose because of the timing, in that everyone else had graduated and he hadn't, and then that event was what I suppose earned him his headband. I don't think it makes Naruto a hypocrite or anything like that, but I do also like Shino coming in and basically, just pointing out that I know them really well, I suppose, in relation to what they're trying to do here, and he, as their teacher, I suppose, is seeing this as a really good team building kind of exercise for them all. Maybe Shino's not fully, exactly convinced about what exactly is going on here, but he knows that it was these guys who saved him from when he was taken over by the Shadow, and so has a level of trust and faith in them because of that, Naruto having, not being directly involved with seeing what Boruto and Co have been doing throughout this entire thing, doesn't have the context for why he should be trusting them with this mission. So I do like that, in that I don't think it's anything particularly negative about Naruto. I don't think Shino was speaking out of line. I just feel it was just very made sense the way Naruto felt, but it also made sense that Shino would speak up and kind of allow kind of Boruto this kind of opportunity to kind of prove himself. And I like that Naruto just went, I'll leave it to you. I'll trust your judgment on this one, Shino, because it shows a level of respect from Naruto to Shino. This relationship, which we haven't seen a ton of before. But even though Naruto's the Hokage and Shino is, a teacher at the academy, I suppose he probably has a good amount of respect for Shino taking on that role and the position that he's in. And as the Hokage, he does, I suppose, at this point, understand the true value of how strong Shino actually is, and that he is very intelligent when you really break it down. So I overall really thought that was a really good scene. Um, the whole, I suppose, little bits of focus on Sumire, the class rep, and her being in hospital on her own, and everyone being there for her. But then when the initial hype dies down and everyone has to go back home, and her kind of being left on her own, and the two members of her own team going off with their families, and then very clearly the whole idea of like her family having come to visit her, and her looking kind of longingly out at their families. I think it's sort of suggesting that Sumire, either both of her parents are gone, or something like that. That she doesn't have her parents and she is on her own, which is an interesting angle to take on the character who is the class rep, who very much hasn't really been presented too much as a kind of ninja character, but more of just like a relatively popular girl in class who kind of brings everyone together around her in a way. So depending on where exactly they go with her, whether that be kind of involving her, like some of the speculation has been that maybe somehow she is involved in what's going on here in this arc, or just establishing her as more of a character in terms of what her backstory actually is, and so on. That could be very, very interesting depending on where they go with it. In that if she is an orphan, maybe there's some sort of a connection with her and like Kabuto, who maybe runs the orphanage or something like that. There's always the opportunity to do something like that. But yeah, the only other thing I suppose would be I like the Naruto Sai scene as well, of just Sai very much putting anything that seems like it relates to the Foundation on himself. And even though Naruto's saying, like, take a break, come and have ramen with me, Sai is kind of like, no, I want to help the person who is doing this for the Foundation, and help them get past the fact that they don't need that ideology. And I suppose it's kind of Sai in a way noting just how Naruto was one of the key people who helped break him out of being entrenched in the Foundation, and how important that has been to him as a character, and he wants to do the same for someone else here. So he's kind of putting all of the pressure on himself to do this for someone else. Whether or not they really commit to doing anything strong with Sai here, I'm not exactly sure, because the Foundation connection is it's interesting that they're bringing it up, but I suppose it's not obvious at this stage to see exactly where the involvement is. But I did like Naruto kind of going off to have ramen then, because one of the first mentions of him as an adult, that he still does that, was nice to see. And then I suppose really after that, the main thing is just for the last half of the episode is Mitsuki, and the fact that with all the action scene stuff that happened, he ended up actually one-on-one with the culprit, the Foundation member guy wearing the mask who is controlling the ghost. And they just had this look. They didn't really say anything to each other. But then Mitsuki turned up with the rest of the team later on and said that they lost him. So Mitsuki's lying to the group here about what happened, which to me is basically the show telling us that this is Mitsuki continuing his test of Boruto, and the whole idea of, is he the one who is going to be the sun that guides Mitsuki into the light? A lot of this I think will eventually depend on if they choose to animate the Orochimaru one-off chapter, in that it feels like that is something that probably should happen relatively soon in the anime. It feels like they should cover that quite quickly to get across that idea of like what he's about. In that, obviously in the trailer for next week's episode, it's called Boruto and Mitsuki, and they seem to be setting up the episode that Mitsuki is going to reveal something important to Boruto, which is interesting in that it can't be the fact that Orochimaru is his father, because that only happens in the Boruto movie at the end. So that doesn't happen just yet. So unless it's just that he reveals that, yeah, I was the one behind this all along to test you, I'm not exactly sure where they're going with this. But I suppose it will sort of help to inform why Mitsuki has such a super high level of respect to Boruto in like the other content going forward. But still, definitely interesting, just that they decided to set this up. And I suppose a lot of where they go from here really depends on, is there anything like truly villainous happening here? Is Mitsuki in control of all of this stuff that's happening? Or is he just kind of saying like, oh, I could stop him right now if I wanted to, but I want to see how Boruto will handle it. So I'll just kind of note that he was here, and maybe we can like trap him down here at a later point, but I'll allow Boruto to do a lot of the fighting so I can kind of monitor him. So it's hard to say. I can't really see them committing to any sort of a like Mitsuki like is actually villainous type plot. I feel they'll probably get some sort of an explanation out of the way where it's kind of understandable what Mitsuki did, and then kind of move on from there. But yeah, I think that's more or less all I want to say about this episode. It was it definitely had the usual thing these last couple of episodes of there's always a good few like 3-4 scenes that are actually really really good. The overall arc I think is interesting. It's just, you know, not every single moment of the episode is that level. And that a lot of the focus on the male stuff, interesting to learn about the postal system of the Leaf Village, but that's 2 episodes now with kind of heavy focus on, you know, the post office, and it's just a little bit like move along here a little bit more. No real problems with it. It's just I think we should be kind of done with that now and move on to the more important stuff. But yeah, that has been my review for episode 11 of Boruto. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode and my review. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.